Hello, everyone, and welcome to Read Between the Lines, the new dating show that helps our singles dig deeper in terms of compatibility. I'm your host, Renee Carey. Today, we are hoping to match up our lovely flight attendant, Seattle-born Chrissy Edler. Chrissy is going to have the opportunity to converse with our three questionable eligible bachelors. The catch: she won't be able to see them until after she makes her decision. Our bachelorette Christy has come up with a couple questions that she thinks will help her to decide which choice is the most fitting partner for her. However, smooth talking won't get you anywhere on Read Between the Lines. All answers will be evaluated by our relationship expert, Dr. Y. Dr. Y has her PhD in Communication Studies from Cornell University. As an expert in interpersonal communication, it will be her job to read between the lines of each bachelor answer in order to help Christy read out the bad from the good. Now, let's introduce our three daters. Contestant number one is an amateur tattoo artist and a part-time lion tamer from Detroit, Michigan, Dan Hoffman. Contestant number two is Ryan Sperry. Ryan is a mortician from Bismarck, North Dakota. And last but not least is contestant number three, Joel Salvatore. Joe is an entrepreneur from the city of San Francisco and is the owner of a chain of music stores called the Guitar Center. Welcome, boys. Now let's get started on these questions.
Question number 2. It's our first date. I know you told me you'd pick me up at 8 for our 8:30 reservations, but I honestly can't find a thing to wear. By the time I'm ready, it's 8:20 and there's no way we're going to make it on time. Give me an example of a simple yet romantic way you'd save the evening.
I would drive us there as fast as possible. Just remember to hold on tight. I haven't had a chance to fix that seatbelt yet. Maybe after dinner we could stop by the parlor where I like to tattoo. Maybe get you some ink that you can remember me by. How's a tat on the lower back sound, Toots?
The thought of being this whole alone thing makes me a little anxious. It's important for me to be home early so I can go to bed at a decent time. My job as a mortician is everything. But, I'd probably just call the date off.
I mean, jobs are very important, so.
Christy, I will present you first with the flowers that I brought you, and then I will assure you that missing dinner doesn't matter. I would take you to a local cafe that I like, and we would have some coffee and learn a little bit more about each other.
That's sweet. Question number 3. I've always been very cautious about the battles that I choose. However, we all have our pet peeves. Disrespect has always been a big one for me. If I confronted you regarding a situation in which I felt you were being disrespectful, how would you react?
I would ask, why aren't you in the kitchen? Right, guys? Just kidding. I'm a pretty relaxed guy, so I'd probably just tell you to take a chill pill and then come hang out with me.
I don't do well with conflict.
Christy, I completely understand where you're coming from. If you confronted me, I would set a time for the fight and make sure neither of us were upset at the time the argument takes place. Communication and perspective taking are very important, I know, in relationships. So, I would listen to you, try to take your perspective, but if I disagreed, I would let you know and make up a rational argument.
Pansy.
Can definitely respect that. Question number 4. Every day I feel like I'm being pulled in 1,000 directions. Between being a friend, a daughter, a waitress, and a student, I'm always busy. I need a man who is independent and as diverse as I am. Give me some examples of everyday roles you fill and why they're important in your life.
Well, first and foremost, I'm me, Dan Hoffman, the most awesome person you'll ever meet. Duh. Also, I'm a champion drinker, but that's only when I'm not devoting most of my time to my two jobs. Gas ain't cheap when your car only gets 9 miles to the gallon. And, of course, I gotta make time for my broskies.
Well, Christy, the most important role I fulfill is my job. And I had a really hard time with letting anything get in between me and my patience.
Being an entrepreneur and a business owner, I naturally have a lot on my plate. I understand where you're coming from, that every day is a busy one. However, I also like to make time for my friends and family. I take passion in what I do, but when I'm home, I like to leave my work at home and have you as my center of attention.
Can definitely respect.
All right, Chrissy. Now that you have a feel for all the contestants, it's now time for you to decide which one you'd like to go on a date with.
Well, Renee, this has definitely been very interesting. All you guys seem very nice. However, I think I'm going to need some help making my final decision. Dr. Y, could you come up and help me? Let's talk about contestant number 1.
Well, in terms of contestant number 1, I thought he was one of the most obnoxious examples of a sex-typed male communicator I've ever seen. His use of pickup lines and biased language is a direct violation of the number 1 term of interpersonal communication. Everything you say is irreversible. What is the first memory you're going to have of him?
Oh my gosh, that he's just rude and, like you said, very biased sex type.
His very direct verbal communication style isn't a negative thing, but he's just come off as extremely assertive and straightforward, and his informal approach makes him seem even disrespectful.
Yeah, I don't think that we're compatible.
I don't think so either, Christy.
What about contestant number 2?
By constantly referring back to his job as a mortician, he's proven that he has very low self-complexity. Could you really handle a relationship, contestant number 2? Probably not. Very good example of someone with the undifferentiated style of communication. You're just very hard to read.
Very wishy-washy, I noticed.
And your uncomfortability with proxemics may be a little awkward for Christy when you two start to get close.
What about contestant number 3? He seems cute.
He displayed the best form of effective listening I've seen in a long time. His answers seemed very well thought out, and they made the biggest impact on me, and obviously you as well.
Absolutely.
He displays the same kind of high self-complexity that you do in your everyday life, and his directness, formality, clarity, and power were all very appropriate. So he's the perfect example of an androgynous communicator, which is really what someone like you would want.
Right, very.
Well, Chrissy, why don't you tell us who you're not picking and why?
Well, I'm definitely not picking contestant number 1. Contestant number 1, who are you?
You're lost.
Alright. As for contestant number 2, you were a little too awkward. Which one were you?
I guess I can respect that, but you're making a big mistake.
That leaves contestant number 3. Come on over.
Well, that leaves Joe. Congratulations, Joe. You've won a beautiful date with our bachelorette, Chrissy. Now, Chrissy, tell us why'd you pick Joe?
Well, he seems like a very effective listener. He has high self-complexity, and he seems like he's the perfect example of an androgynous communicator, which I think would be most compatible with me.
That's all, guys. I'm your host, Renee Carey, and thank you for watching Read Between the Lines. Come again soon.
Read Between the Lines is based on the uncertainty reduction theory. In order to find yourself more comfortable with another person, you need to get used to asking questions. What you don't know can be scary. By removing the physical constraints that exist within initial interactions, we believe the likelihood of self-disclosure is much higher. I am here to ensure that we match Christy up with the most communicatively competent dater. I want to ensure she ends up with a man who not only knows how to communicate, but who holds the ability and motivation to as well.